Top 15 Deadliest Leaders in Human History. 1. Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic of China, led from 1949 until his death in 1976. His rule resulted in catastrophic policies that caused the deaths of tens of millions of his own people. The Great Leap Forward, 1958-1962, was intended to industrialize China rapidly, but led to the worst man-made famine in history. It caused the death of an estimated 30 to 45 million people due to starvation and forced collectivization. The Cultural Revolution, 1966-1976, followed, unleashing chaos as Mao urged youth to purge counter-revolutionaries. This campaign destroyed institutions, imprisoned intellectuals, and caused countless deaths through public humiliations and purges. Mao maintained a strict cult of personality, suppressing dissent with force. Propaganda glorified him as a near-divine figure while internal repression silenced millions. Despite the devastation, Mao is still viewed by some in China as a symbol of unity and resistance, though his legacy is globally condemned for the unparalleled human toll of his leadership. 2. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin ruled the Soviet Union from the mid-1920s until 1953. His totalitarian rule resulted in widespread death through forced collectivization, mass purges, and a brutal prison system. The Holodomor, a famine in Ukraine, 1932-1933, resulted from Stalin's policies and caused around 4 million deaths. Grain requisitioning and resistance to collectivization turned farmland into mass graves. Stalin's Great Purge, 1936-1938, targeted perceived political threats. Military officers, intellectuals, and average citizens were executed or sent to the Gulag, a network of harsh labor camps. The Gulag system itself led to millions of deaths through starvation, forced labor, and brutal conditions. The regime operated under extreme surveillance and fear. Despite these atrocities, Stalin led the USSR to victory in World War II, cementing his legacy as both a war hero and one of history's deadliest dictators. 3. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, leader of Nazi Germany from 1934 to 1945, orchestrated the Holocaust and World War II, making him responsible for the deaths of over 20 million people. The Holocaust resulted in the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, including Romani people, disabled individuals, and political opponents. Hitler's invasion of Poland in 1939 triggered World War II, leading to widespread destruction and tens of millions of military and civilian deaths worldwide. His ideology, based on racial supremacy and fascism, was disseminated through propaganda and indoctrination. The Nazi regime operated death camps, gas chambers, and forced labor systems. His reign ended in 1945 with his suicide in a Berlin bunker, leaving behind a legacy of horror and destruction still deeply studied and remembered today. 4. Leopold II of Belgium. King Leopold II ruled Belgium from 1865-1909, but his personal colony, the Congo Free State, 1885-1908, became the site of one of history's most brutal exploitations. Leopold ran Congo as a private enterprise, extracting rubber using forced labor. Entire villages were enslaved. Those who didn't meet quotas were tortured or killed. Victims included men, women, and children. Reports detail severed hands, floggings, and mass killings. An estimated 10 to 15 million Congolese perished under his reign. Leopold justified his actions as civilizing missions, while enriching himself through plunder. Western outrage eventually forced him to cede Congo to the Belgian government. Today, his legacy is reviled globally, though in Belgium, debates continue over statues and public recognition of his colonial crimes. 5. Hideki Tojo. Hideki Tojo, Prime Minister of Japan from 1941 to 1944, was the military leader during World War II. He directed aggressive expansion in Asia, resulting in millions of deaths. Under Tojo, Japan committed numerous atrocities, including the Nanjing Massacre, 1937, where over 300,000 civilians were slaughtered in weeks. He endorsed the use of biological warfare, slave labor, and human experimentation, particularly by Unit 731, which committed horrific war crimes in China. Tojo led Japan into the attack on Pearl Harbor, escalating the Pacific War and causing devastating battles from the Philippines to Okinawa. Captured after the war, Tojo was tried for war crimes and executed in 1948. His role in Japan's wartime brutality remains a dark stain on history. 6. Ismail Enver Pasha. Ismail Enver Pasha was a key Ottoman military leader and one of the three pashas who ruled during World War I. He played a central role in the Armenian genocide. Enver Pasha aimed to create a pan-Turkic empire, seeing Christian minorities as obstacles. Between 1915 and 1917, about 1.5 million Armenians were deported and murdered. The genocide included forced death marches into the Syrian desert, mass shootings, and starvation. Assyrians and Greeks were also targeted in what many scholars call genocides. His military decisions during WWI, including a failed campaign in the Caucasus, led to further Ottoman losses and civilian suffering. He fled the empire in 1918, later dying in Central Asia in 1922. Enver remains infamous as one of the architects of modern genocidal policy. 7. Pol Pot. Pol Pot, leader of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, 1975-1979, carried out a radical communist revolution that caused the deaths of up to 2.2 million people. His regime emptied cities, forced citizens into labor camps, and abolished money, religion, and education. Anyone deemed intellectual was executed. Known as the killing fields, mass graves were dug across Cambodia. Victims died from starvation, overwork, or execution by blunt weapons. Torture prisons like Tuol Sleng became notorious for inhuman cruelty. Only a few prisoners ever survived the interrogations. Pol Pot was ousted in 1979 by Vietnamese forces. He died in 1998, never facing trial. His regime remains a horrifying example of ideological extremism. 8. Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung, North Korea's founding leader, 1948-1994, established a dynastic totalitarian regime marked by purges, famine, and extreme repression. He led North Korea during the Korean War, 1950-1953, which killed over 2.5 million people, including countless civilians on both sides. After the war, he implemented strict authoritarian control. Secret police, labor camps, and state surveillance became the norm. His policies led to severe famine in the 1990s, known as the Arduous March, which killed up to 3.5 million people. Kim remains revered in North Korea's state cult, but internationally, his rule is seen as the foundation of a brutal regime that continues today. 9. Mengistu Haile Mariam. Mengistu Haile Mariam ruled Ethiopia from 1977 to 1991 under a Marxist military dictatorship responsible for extensive atrocities. He launched the Red Terror, where thousands of political opponents were executed in the streets, often with their corpses displayed publicly. Mengistu's regime caused severe famine, particularly during the 1983-1985 Ethiopian famine, worsened by forced resettlements and government negligence. Hundreds of thousands died from starvation, purges, and war. Human rights abuses were widespread, with dissenters imprisoned or disappeared. Mengistu fled to Zimbabwe in 1991 and was later sentenced to death in absentia for genocide. He remains a symbol of tyranny in Ethiopia's dark chapter. 10. Idi Amin. Idi Amin ruled Uganda from 1971 to 1979 with violent repression, tribal purges, and economic ruin, causing an estimated 300,000 to 500,000 deaths. He expelled Uganda's Indian population in 1972, collapsing the economy and intensifying ethnic divisions. Amin's security forces brutally targeted political opponents, journalists, and ethnic groups, using torture and extrajudicial killings. He developed a bizarre personality cult and referred to himself as conqueror of the British Empire while behaving erratically. Amin fled after being overthrown in 1979 and died in exile in Saudi Arabia in 2003, never facing justice for his crimes. 11. Benito Mussolini. Benito Mussolini ruled Italy as a fascist dictator from 1922 to 1943. He inspired authoritarianism across Europe and allied with Nazi Germany during Famine. He led brutal colonial campaigns in Africa, especially Ethiopia, where chemical weapons and mass killings were used. Mussolini's domestic regime suppressed political opposition through secret police, censorship, and forced labor. His alliance with Hitler dragged Italy into Devastation, leading to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Italians. In 1945, he was captured and executed by Italian partisans. His body was desecrated by crowds, ending his violent legacy. 12. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq from 1979 to 2003 through repression, war, and genocide. His rule caused an estimated 250,000 1 million deaths. He launched the Iran-Iraq War, 1980-1988, which killed over 1 million people with no conclusive result. Saddam used chemical weapons against Kurdish civilians in the Anfal campaign, killing tens of thousands. He crushed dissent through secret police and torture, even targeting his own ministers and family. Captured after the 2003 U.S. invasion, Saddam was executed in 2006 for crimes against humanity. 13. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, founder of the Mongol Empire, 1206–1227, led brutal conquests that resulted in the deaths of 40–60 million people. Entire cities were destroyed. Those who resisted were executed en masse. His armies left rivers of blood across Asia and Eastern Europe. He used terror as a strategy, spreading fear to prevent resistance and ensure rapid surrender. While destructive, his rule also created trade routes and a short-lived era of stability under Pax Mongolica. Genghis Khan died in 1227, still revered in Mongolia, but widely seen as one of the most lethal conquerors in history. 14. Nero. Nero ruled the Roman Empire from 54 to 68 AD, infamous for cruelty, persecution, and tyranny. His reign saw thousands of deaths. He allegedly started the Great Fire of Rome and blamed Christians, launching their brutal persecution. He executed his mother, wife, and senators, often out of paranoia and vengeance. Nero's extravagance bankrupted the empire. Gladiator games and building projects came at massive human and financial cost. Declared a public enemy by the Senate, Nero took his own life in 68 AD, ending the Julio-Claudian dynasty. 15. Vladimir Lenin. Vladimir Lenin led the Bolsheviks during the Russian Revolution and ruled the Soviet Union from 1917 until his death in 1924. His Red Terror campaign executed thousands of political opponents and church figures. He led Russia through civil war, where millions died from violence, famine, and disease. Lenin created the Cheka, a secret police agency that used torture and mass execution to control the population. Though hailed as a revolutionary by some, Lenin's brutal tactics paved the way for Stalin's even deadlier rule. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, comment, and subscribe for more untold stories and hidden history. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.